Today I'm pushing a follow-up on the first video I made when I spoke about XtraFi and its leverage farming potential. So I really hope you watched this one because this is an interesting protocol that has taken many aspects from many other DeFi protocols, and they have implemented them into one and built on the leading DEX, right, on optimism. So today I'm gonna specifically discuss the Extra token, because I did just mention it in the previous one, and I will also stress on the farming equation that you should be aware of when you want to dabble in something like XtraFi, and so you don't go over leverage, and so you understand where you're standing and what is the potential yield that you can get. So like I said, this is indeed a follow-up and an important one, all right? So if you watched the first one, and if you're still on the fence, if you're looking to get into XtraFi and you're thinking, but you know, what are the risks? What is the Extra token and how can I, actually use the platform in a more practical way? So first things first, what I really like about the Extra token, to be honest, is the idea that they have implemented into earning the Extra token itself. Because it's not your generic degen, farmable, inflatable token that you'll earn on any pool whatsoever, and then you don't really care about the price action. The only thing you would care about is just taking the token and dumping it on the market to make some money. So there are three ways, as labeled, that you can earn money from XtraFi and basically earn the Extra token itself. So of course, the most common way in general to earn any type of asset is to buy it on the open market. So you can get it on Velodrome if you're on Optimism, or on Aerodrome if you're on Base. All right, so that's one, of course. The second way is, okay, you can farm it, but hear me out. You can only do that through lending pools. So you have to lend money. And then the APR on that farmable amount is quite small. So maximum you would get is slightly sub 4% APR, and that's only on dollar, so inverse finance stablecoin. And if you don't know what dollar is nor inverse, refer to a previous video I made on the protocol. I'm gonna leave a link in the description below. Also another interesting one for the real DeFi chasers, all right, keep in mind. Last but not least, you can also earn more Extra by staking Extra. So first you have to acquire it from the first two options, then you can stake it. And if you lock it, you basically earn the V version of the token, so the vested version, V Extra, which would allow you to add leverage on specific pools. One of these pools is the MS ETH wrapped ETH pool, or /ETH pool. So the conversion is made otherwise, all right? So for me, if I want to get the token, if I want to take advantage of the high APYs that go on the more I leverage, either I buy it on the market if the price is good, or I just lend some USDC, ETH, whatsoever, and then I earn that APR. It's small indeed. You'd need about 200 V Extra to access basically, I think 7x or 5x leverage on specific pools. I just need to stress this part again, all right? But that's for the token. It's important, it plays an important part of the ecosystem, but it's not needed, right? So you don't have to get it if you don't want to go above and beyond in terms of leverage. Because when we discuss leverage, it's very important to understand the farming equation, the one that I'm about to show you. Because there is a very important link between the lending protocol, basically the lend option, and the farm option. And you need to be aware of this if you want to enter, XtraFi. All right, so here it goes. Very simply put, in order to keep a balance between the LPs that you're farming on and the lending pools that supply, those borrowed assets that you want to acquire, the more leverage you go, there is a threshold in each lending pool that you shouldn't exceed, or you should be aware of in order not to exceed it. And it's 80% utilization rate. What I mean here is that you should always simulate your position when you want to enter a pool. Because if there isn't enough money to borrow, your APR can even go negative. So as long as the lending pool you're taking money from has a utilization rate of 80% or below, preferably below, and you can calculate, so you can see whatever amount you're about to borrow, will that take me above 80% or not? So you need to be aware of this, because if it does, the borrowing rate will increase exponentially. So think about this for a second. If that equation is broken, APR will drop sharply, can even go negative at some point, because the growth is exponential. If you go above 80% utilization rate, now you're gonna have a small APR, a very high borrowing rate, which will put a smile on the lender's face, and then they will earn additional APR because you push the utilization rate for them to earn additional yield. So it's very important to understand how this works. Now, XtraFi has taken an extra step, no pun intended, to mitigate that risk. So basically the most common, the most in-demand pools, they added an additional lending market to them. So for example, USDC has 2 interest models. ETH has 2 interest models. So the places where people are seeking to get more money from, all right, then they add an additional lending pool. And if need be, so if one, for example, goes above 80% and one doesn't, the market itself will adjust these rates. So people will look at the pool while there's additional APY or APR, and then they will flock to that pool, bringing down the utilization rate and adjusting the market so you can earn again. So in general, the concept is interesting in regards to understanding the pros and the cons and the weights of how much you can earn based on how much there is in the lending pools. And for example, if you are acquiring a stable pair, let's say MSUSD and USDC, just, between quotation marks, MSUSD is the metronome version of USDC. All right, so I did cover metronome twice already. Refer to the videos on the channel if you want to understand what that protocol does. So if you are entering, let's say, that farm and there isn't enough MSUSD, but there is a lot of USDC, the protocol itself will borrow more USDC. So will basically borrow the whole thing in USDC, and then it will exchange it internally using the LPs on Velodrome to the appropriate amount of MSUSD, and it will adjust your position based on that. All right, so that process XtraFi does for you. You don't need to do that yourself. So the system will adjust and rebalance based on the need, based on demand, based on supply. Right? But even though that exists, in the short term at least, if you want to enter a farm, please do your simulation and understand that if you go above a certain utilization rate, again, it's 80%, it's fixed. Because up until 80%, the borrowing rate is 1. It won't change. It's at least 10%, it could go from 10 to 30% depending on the pool, but it won't budge. The moment you go 0.1% above 80%, that jumps quickly, and it's an exponential growth. All right, so I'm gonna quickly show you what I mean here, because, by the way, this is Xtra's chart. It's not too bad, to be honest. All right, so again, keep an eye. If you think now the price is enticing and you're trying to take advantage of additional leverage, you can snipe some tokens. So if I go to XtraFi right now, like I said, you can come here. Let me choose any pool whatsoever. So I'm gonna, for example, touch the ones that I have dabbled with. So assuming we're dealing with MSE wrapped ETH. So if I click on farm, like I said, you have the APY simulations. So that is how much basically you will earn at the end if you enter that. But this is with zero ETH entered. All right. So if I were to, let's say, type 5 ETH, look at my APY. It drops negative. There isn't enough liquidity to borrow for me to keep the utilization rate below 80%. So by seeing this negative APY, it's clear to me that we approached a threshold in regards to borrowing on the ETH lending pool. So perhaps it's a good opportunity to stake some ETH in the lending pool, take advantage of that. Or if you are a whale, all right, so you can go ahead, replenish the lending pool with ETH, so earn that APR, or APY, and then come here and farm another position in that. So basically you're borrowing from yourself, so to speak, and then you're farming on one side and you're lending on the other. But that's, again, if you have a lot of funds and you can play with that, be my guest. But that's assuming you're somebody who want to enter with a bit of money. That's not something that, you know, you should be concerned about. So at this point in time, the only thing you can do is just wait. You need to wait for the lending pools to replenish, because again, you cannot do anything right now, all right, unfortunately. So that is the gist of it, all right? So if you enter your ETH, so whatever asset you want to supply, you're completely okay with that. So if I were to enter 5 MS ETH, same thing, because if I drop back down, you see there isn't MS ETH to borrow, so the assets that will be borrowed are wrapped ETH. And there isn't enough to keep me below 80% utilization rate, unfortunately. So anyways, you get the gist, you get the idea. So please simulate and do not jump the gun. Do not just go ahead and boom, enter your position, because everyone will be affected. The moment you enter yourself, not only you will earn negative APY, but everyone else will. All right. Now, of course, like I said, this will probably be temporary if somebody were to do it, because the protocol will adjust itself. If I go right now to lend, and if I drop back down to, you see, they're here. Those are the ETH lending pools. This is what I'm talking about. You have two of them. One is already above 80%. That's why when I simulate this, automatically the protocol will borrow ETH from this pool and will drop the APY negatively. However, like I said, the protocol will readjust this and the market itself will readjust this. And now, because we are above 80%, if you wait a bit, you'll see that we'll drop back down below 80% and the MS ETH wrapped ETH APY will jump back up. It's a very cool concept. It's not easy to grasp, I'm not gonna lie, but you have to understand how market makers work and how you can be a part of this at the end of the day. So I will end it here. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out on Telegram, either the main group or my personal Telegram. Do not be shy, please. I'll reply whatever the question is. And if you're not part of our community, please join us. We share a lot of these cool protocols, a lot of legit, real DeFi protocols, yield opportunities that come with high rewards, but at the same time, there's risk, of course. All right, so always keep that scope in mind. I'm gonna leave a link to the description, to our community below, and all the links that I just mentioned in my video will be below in the description as well. With that, see you in the next one. Have a good one.